Welcome to the Capital News. I am your host, Alex Kreitis. Today is March 15th, 2019. The Ides of March. Beware the Ides of March, as they say. Somebody should have said that to Julius Caesar. A little too late for that guy. But it's a pleasure having you with me today, everybody. So let's get right into it. I want to continue our discussion from yesterday in regards to the Lisa Page interview with Congress, the closed-door meeting that she had with Congress last year. And we're still on day one of testimony. There was a couple days, and we're talking a few hundred pages of transcript here. Obviously, we're not going to get through everything, but I do want to at least explain and go through some of the meat and potatoes of all of this stuff because there's a lot of interesting information. You know, I liken this to, the sinking of a ship. It's the Titanic going down, so to speak, and you have the rats jumping ship. And I think a lot of these people who are, want to say that they are more righteous than thou and holier than thou and carry themselves on that pedestal, I think we're going to see a 180 on that. I think a lot of these people are going to go down. I think that there's a lot of finger pointing. Again, this is the rats jumping ship, pointing fingers, getting their story out there, and we're going to see who aligns with who. And then it's just going to become a question of determining who's telling the truth or who's more credible in all of this, because I think the fireworks are coming, and with this slow drip, drip, drip of all of these people, you have Bruce Orr testimony out, you have Lisa Page, you have Peter Strzok, and the list might just keep on coming. So as I read to you guys the transcript yesterday, I'm going to do that again today. I think that's the best way to give a full assessment of what's actually being said, not me paraphrasing things or getting confused somewhere and misstating something, because that's obviously important. I want to give the facts here. I want to give what's actually said. And as I said yesterday, I am reading this verbatim. So just like anybody speaking and answering questions, they might hesitate, they might stutter, they might change course and go in another direction. So if there's a break or a pause in how I'm reading this, that's why. I'm just simply reflecting how that person is speaking at the time. Now, what we're going to get into today is going to be obviously a continuation of Ms. Page, her testimony. But now, instead of focusing on Congressman Gowdy, we're now going to focus on Congressman John Ratcliffe of Texas, who is also a Republican, and he goes down a couple paths. One deals with the Hillary Clinton email investigation, and then they also get into Russia collusion. So let me begin with this transcript. So here's Mr. Ratcliffe. Okay, fair enough. I want to go back to one of the things you said, and I wrote it down. We were talking about the Hillary Clinton email investigation, and you said everyone at the FBI and the DOJ involved knew far earlier than July that we were not going to be able to make the case against her. Do you remember saying that? Page. I do. Ratcliffe. Okay. And you talked about the reason being that there was, and I don't know if I got this exactly, but you said we couldn't find any indicia of knowledge that she knew that these shouldn't be traversing her server. Evidence of an intent. Page. That's mostly right, sir. The problem really is, in a mishandling case, you have to sort of show that malign intent. And with respect to what she was doing, her claim, and was not one that we could ultimately rebut, is, I didn't know it was classified. We were trying to execute our job. Okay, I'm going to pause right here because this is important. We're showing intent. This is the statute. This is what we're going after. And here's Miss Page's answer. We couldn't ultimately rebut it. What was this that she couldn't rebut? Hillary Clinton's answer. I didn't know it was classified. What do you mean you didn't know it was classified? You're the Secretary of State. You're not the court jester. You're not the town drunk. You're not the village idiot. What do you mean you didn't know you had classified information on your server, that you were emailing back and forth classified information? She being Hillary Clinton, was supposed to be the most qualified person to be the president ever in the history of the country. Remember this? Even President Obama said so. And of course, he says this after the fact, after he whooped her tail in 2008, saying she wasn't. But now, after the fact that he's president and Hillary Clinton's running for president against Donald Trump, she's the most qualified person ever. Ever. And of course, anybody on the Democratic side thought the same, and anybody who despised Donald Trump said the same thing. Hillary Clinton is the most qualified person to be the president of the United States ever. And here we have it. Classified information that we know was on her server, and she didn't know it was classified. Do you believe this? Who believes this? Well, apparently, the geniuses at the FBI and the DOJ believed it. They couldn't rebut it. We couldn't rebut it. I didn't know it was classified. Didn't know. You know, special operators moving around countries, ambassadors flying from one country to another, where we're moving assets, how we're going to handle this country versus that country, strategy, military, economics, all of this stuff, top secret stuff, classified. I didn't know it was classified. If this actually holds up, which for the time being it has, because she's still, she's walking free. If this holds up, then why do we have prisons? And why is there anybody in them? Because clearly all you have to say is, I didn't know that was the law. Remember the example I gave of Pablo Escobar? The FBI is raiding the house. He's flushing cocaine down the toilet. All he should have said was, hey, I didn't know having cocaine was a crime. I didn't know I wasn't allowed to sell it. And he would have been fine. And they would have said, yep, yeah, that's right. You can plead ignorance. You didn't know. You didn't know? Yeah, okay. You can keep on with your operation. This is the two-tiered justice system we have in this country. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. I don't know how you can sit here and listen to this stuff and not be disgusted. I didn't know it was classified. This is the testimony here. It's just unbelievable. And some of this gets worse. But I'm going to continue. This is Miss Page. When we bring mishandling cases, it's people who are often hoarding classified documents, bringing them home when they're marked, and they know they shouldn't do it. Often it's somebody who we suspect of spying that we simply can't make out a case of. Again, are you kidding me? It's people who are often hoarding classified documents, bringing them home when they're marked, and they know they shouldn't. Again, Secretary of State of the United States of America. Hoarding them? Okay, so she didn't print these documents out and throw them in her bathroom in New York. She just had this is the 21st century. She doesn't have to print them out and hoard them in her house, in her bathroom, in New York. They're already on there, digital copies called emails. You ever hear of them? 21st century. That's where they are. That's where they are. And the other thing that everybody has to remember, and of course, this wasn't well publicized in the mainstream media. Why? Because it has to go against Hillary Clinton. If it had to go against Donald Trump or his children or anybody who ever shook Donald Trump's hand, they would have been read the riot act. They'd be locked up, throw away the key, send them to the electric chair. But because it was Hillary Clinton, the story didn't get much traction. And what it has to do with, because you have to remember, there are a lot of inspectors general reports that are going to be coming due. One of them has to deal with the intelligence community. And this inspector general was before Congress not too long ago, and he said, in regards to the email scandal here, that the Inspector General of the intelligence community, along with his most senior aides, did not and do not have the requisite security clearance to read the emails that were on Hillary Clinton's email server. So how the hell can the FBI and the DOJ say that there was no intent, that she wasn't hoarding anything, that she didn't know better? How can they say that for her? How can they make these types of excuses? This is beyond corruption. This is a banana republic. This is a two-tiered justice system. The Inspector General of the intelligence community didn't have security clearance to read the emails from Hillary Clinton's email server. And we're supposed to believe that I didn't know it was classified? Give me a break. Who are these people? So let's continue. Miss Page. And, the ability to prove, that would obviously be her defense. And the ability to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she, in fact, intended to handle classified information in a way that was not permissible was just not possible. Did you hear what I just said, ladies and gentlemen? That's all I have to say. If you need much more evidence than that, I don't know what to say. How many brain cells do you have to rub together? This is one thing after the other. And let me just go back to the other sentence that she said. Often it's somebody who we suspect of spying that we simply can't make out a case of. Now, of course, they probably didn't think that she was spying and doing that, but you remember my argument yesterday, because this goes back to Judicial Watch, and if you didn't catch up on this podcast, please do listen to the whole thing, because this is a continuation of it. So in my explanation, possibly, my speculation, again, speculating here, but you have Judicial Watch who is saying that Hillary Clinton set up this email server in her home in New York, in her bathroom, to circumvent FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act request. I go a little bit further, because we already have the testimony and the statements from the FBI and DOJ saying that there was no evidence that this server was hacked. So my argument is, well, maybe it wasn't hacked. Maybe that's true. But maybe Hillary Clinton gave access to some foreign power. Maybe she gave it to the highest bidder. Maybe it was the Russians. Maybe it was the Saudis. Maybe it was the Chinese. Who knows? Maybe that's really why she had it. And so they wouldn't have had to have hacked it or hacked into her server, because she already gave them permission to be there, because they paid top dollar. And that's how the Clintons operate. Pay for play. See what I'm getting there? I think that makes some sense. Now, of course, maybe the geniuses at the FBI didn't think that was possible, but maybe they were prejudiced, or maybe they were lopsided here because this was a political election, and we're going to get into that too as we continue. But this is just disgusting. This is just disgusting. Well, I didn't know it was classified. Give me a break. Mr. Ratcliffe. Okay. And that's, I think, when you talk about intent, that's certainly true under Part 18793F. That's the statute. But it sounds like you all just blew over gross negligence. Page, we did not blow over gross negligence. We, in fact, the director, because on its face, it did seem like, well, maybe there's a potential here for this to be the charge. And we had multiple conversations with the Justice Department about charging gross negligence. And the Justice Department's assessment was that it was both constitutionally vague, so that they did not actually feel that they could permissibly bring that charge, and also that it had either never been done or had only been done once, like 99 years ago. And so they did not feel that they could sustain a charge. And in fact, one thing I will note is that the director asked the department to pull for him a record of every mishandling case that had been brought in like the last 30 years. Mr. Ratcliffe, I saw that. I saw a series of emails about that. But the question I had was, he requested all of those in the June 2016 timeframe. He wrote his memo that we've referred to as the exoneration memo on May 2nd of 2016. So he made the request to look at the cases, to see the cases, weeks after he'd already written a draft ruling out gross negligence. Miss Page, that's right. Well, no. So we should clarify a couple things. So the cases were about mishandling, not about gross negligence. So the 30 years back were really about, like, show me the types of mishandling cases that we do bring. So it's true that I think the director had a sense already like, well, we can't make out garden variety 793F. And so let me challenge my own views on this. Could you please produce, let me see what kind of cases we brought and sort of the facts that surrounded those cases. And so that's what was pulled. Separately, we had multiple conversations with the Justice Department about bringing a gross negligent charge. And that's, as I said, the advice that we got from the department was that they did not think that it was constitutionally vague and not sustainable. Mr. Ratcliffe, okay. So let me, if I can, I know I'm testing your memory, but when you say advice you got from the department, you're making it sound like it was the department that told you, you're not going to charge gross negligence because we're the prosecutors and we're telling you we're not going to. Miss Page, that is correct. Mr. Ratcliffe, bring a case based on that. Who at the department was telling you that? Page, Richard Loftman is my understanding. Okay. Sorry, did you mean David Loftman? I'm sorry, Richard Scott. No, that's my fault. Thank you. Sorry. Probably David Loftman, too. Remember I told you, remember that name, David Loftman, yesterday? David Loftman was one of the gentlemen, the prosecutors from the DOJ, who wanted to sit in on the Hillary Clinton interview, although he did not partake in any of the other interviews and wanted other people involved as well, despite the fact that, according to Miss Page, her testimony, everybody at the FBI did not want that to take place. They wanted Mrs. Clinton to be treated just like everybody else, according to her testimony. So there's that name once again. Okay, so let me continue here. Mr. Ratcliffe. Okay, have you still got those text messages in front of you? if you turn to June 30th. I'm sorry, which year, sir? I'm sorry, June 30th, 2016. I'm trying to get back to where we left off. But there was one text message from Peter Strzok to you. Just left Bill. I'm assuming that's referring to Bill Priestap. He changed president to another senior government official. Yep, do you see that? I do. So obviously, I know you didn't write that text. It was sent to you. But we've all noticed there were different drafts of that exoneration memo. It originally said the president. Then it said senior government official. And then it disappeared altogether. Tell me what your recollection was about why that was important to take that out of the what ultimately became Jim Comey's July 5th public statement. Miss Page, I really don't recall. I don't remember a lot of attention spent on this. I think it was Bill's. Would you remind me what this was in reference to? What was this about? Okay, yada, yada, yada. What I just want to set up for you guys here is this is obviously in regards to Jim Comey's July 5th public statement. This was the statement that Jim Comey came out through the book at Hillary Clinton and then said, we don't have any reasonable prosecutors here who would bring this case. So she's guilty of X, Y, Z, and everything else under the sun that's being reported in the media, but we're not going to prosecute her. Why? Because her name's Hillary Clinton. If it was you or me, we'd be locked up, throw away the key. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But that's where we stand with this. So allegedly, according to this back and forth here, there were some different drafts that took place in regards to this quote-unquote exoneration memo. And I guess there were some that had the president in it, and then that was changed to senior official, and then that verbiage was taken out altogether. This will make sense as we move along further down the line, but that's just interesting. Was Jim Comey going to mention the president in this speech as if President Obama at the time was interested, and maybe he opined, maybe he threw some of his weight behind it? I mean, I don't know what was going to be said. I mean, Jim Comey, like him or not, he was in a difficult position there. Politically speaking, career-wise, however you want to look at it. This was not the FBI's fault, though. This was Hillary Clinton's fault. She set up a private server in her home in New York in her bathroom. She is the only person that needs to be blamed here. Okay? Now, if there's some other cover-up, if there's some shenanigans going on, that's what needs to be found out, and I think that's what we're in the process of finding out as we make our way through this transcript and a lot of the other things that are likely to come to light, hopefully in the not-too-distant future. So that's sort of the Hillary Clinton email scandal stuff. Okay? Again, it's just unbelievable, this two-tier justice system that most definitely exists. I mean, it's right in front of our faces. But now we're going to get into some of the Russia collusion stuff. So again, let me continue. And again, this has to deal with Mr. Ratcliffe and Miss Page, obviously. So, Mr. Ratcliffe, what do you recall about when you received that? And Miss Page. So we are now opening the Russia collusion investigation, and I agree wholly with the sentiment, to be honest with you. The Clinton investigation was whether she mishandled classified information, which she did. That's me saying that. That's important. It matters, but it does not matter like a person associated with a presidential campaign receiving and potentially accepting, which we didn't know, obviously, but the risk that somebody had received and accepted an offer of assistance from Russia, which I view as our sort of most treacherous adversary. My apologies. So this one was a more significant, more concerning investigation, and unquestionably one which was more threatening to our national security. All right, so we're setting this up here. Miss Page is recalling the Russia-Trump collusion story and very early on in this investigation process. And in her opinion, this is what she said, because I have to repeat this because this is important to me. And I think it should be important to everybody. So let me just reread some of this. The Clinton investigation was whether she mishandled classified information. That's important. It matters. But it does not matter like a person associated with a presidential campaign receiving and potentially accepting, which we didn't know, obviously, but the risk that somebody had received and accepted an offer of assistance from Russia. Come on. There's no question that that allegation is a serious allegation. That a potential foreign adversary is potentially colluding or conspiring with a presidential candidate or a presidential campaign or both. No question ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I don't know how she can say she basically just blows over the Clinton investigation. That's important, but it's not like this. Excuse me. Did you not hear what I just said to you guys in regards to the Inspector General of the intelligence community not having the security clearance to read the emails that were on Hillary Clinton's email server? The FBI knew this. Or if they didn't, they were completely incompetent. But we have the testimony of Jim Comey before Congress where he said that. He testified to it. Not only did he testify to it in front of Congress, he also made his public statement where he threw the book at Hillary Clinton that she had private classified emails on her private server in her home in New York in the bathroom. I mean, what more do you need? Do you actually need her on camera with today's newspaper next to her face saying, I am Hillary Clinton and I intended to do this, that, and the other thing? I mean, come on, you're not going to get that. Even the dumbest criminals don't do that crap. So this is just beyond the pale. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Furthermore, as we make our way through this whole entire Trump-Russia collusion process, we know that was been a bunch of bull. So whether or not the FBI knew it, well, I think that's going to be some of the stuff that comes to light here. Because what do we know? What did we have? We have the Christopher Steele dossier, which was used at this time to get all of these FISA warrants to spy on President Trump himself, candidate Trump, and his campaign. We now know this. We also know that the dossier was funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DNC, and put together by Fusion GPS. And they consulted and hired out former British spy Christopher Steele because evidently he has connections to the Kremlin, and they wanted to get dirt on Donald Trump. Well, now more information comes out that might not even have been true, that Fusion GPS probably wrote the Steele dossier, and they paid Steele just to say, hey, can we use your name? I mean, it'll make it look better if it came from you, a former spy from the UK, and you have connections with the Kremlin. Of course, we're told anything that comes from Russia is a lie. We can't be trusted. But if it has something to do that would damage the president, well, by all means, it must be gospel. It's the truth. This is ridiculous. I talk all the time about being in the financial and economic world of Oz on the economic podcast. We are most definitely just in Oz all over the place. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. It's disgusting. I'm going to continue. Mr. Ratcliffe. Okay, and I thought I heard you earlier. I thought I heard you say, in talking about this being on a Sunday, that it had just happened, and you were stressed. Paige, I think all of us were. Yes, I can confidently say that the very small group of us who knew about the predication were all very concerned. Okay, so as I read this, though, and I realize this is Peter Strzok, but when he says this matters because this matters, so super glad to be on this voyage with you, it doesn't sound like he's stressed. It sounds like he's happy. If you're super glad, he sounds like he's happy. Paige, that's a personal comment, sir. What's that? That's a personal comment? I don't know what you mean. Explain that to me. Paige, that's a reflection that, okay, the mid-year investigation, recall mid-year was the code name, if you will, for the Hillary Clinton email investigation. So allow me to continue. The mid-year investigation is over, right? So he's going back to kind of his day job. I'm going back to my day job. And now we have a new investigation, which will necessarily involve regular contact. Ratcliffe. Okay, so a week later, on August 6th, you texted Agent Strzok about the candidate Trump's criticism of the cons, and you stated, Jesus, you should read this, and Trump should go F himself. Yes, okay, and his response to that was something, and F Trump. Paige, yes. Ratcliffe, okay, that same day, you sent a text to Peter Strzok that says, so this is not to take away from the unfairness of it all, but we are both deeply fortunate people, and maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace. Do you find that? Paige, I'm sorry. Is it on the 8th too? Yes, I see that. On the 6th. They're arguing back and forth on the dates. Yes, I see it. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. So when you said maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace, who is that menace? Paige, the menace is Donald Trump. Ratcliffe, okay. And so if you're telling Peter Strzok that he's meant to protect the country from Donald Trump, who is a menace, Paige interrupts. Although, Ratcliffe, I don't know how to read that other than you No. Well, I think that it is, but I think it's in the context of, well, I'm not certain, to be honest with you, Page says. I think it's Donald Trump. But the reason I'm hesitating is because this is so close in time to the opening of the Russia investigation that the concern that we all had there was a member of his campaign colluding with Russia was so great that I'm not 100% positive that I can split those. Ratcliffe, well, I'll tell you why it's really important, because you're right. It is so close to the opening of the Russia investigation. And so if a week after the Russia investigation is open, you and Agent Strzok are talking about protecting the country from a menace, if you're meaning it's Donald Trump, I don't know how to read that other than you have prejudged him. Miss Page, so you are misunderstanding, sir. I have, at the time that we opened the investigation, I don't have any reason to believe that it is Donald Trump himself who was colluding with the Russians. So that's kind of an important point there. At the beginning, at least according to Miss Page, she herself did not think Donald Trump was colluding with the Russians. Okay. She continues, there was absolutely no preconceived belief or feeling at all that it was Donald Trump himself. We took quite deliberate steps, and we were very judicious in deciding who we would open on and what criteria we would use in order to open those investigations, in order to determine who might have been in a position to receive this offer, if it was even true. Well, as we know now, I mean, this is just a bunch of bull. Mr. Ratcliffe, okay, well, I appreciate that, but I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. These are your words, and so I'm asking you what they mean because this is really important. And the way I read this is an FBI lawyer, a week after this case is opened, is saying speaking to the FBI agent who is the lead investigator in this nascent investigation, you are meant to protect the country from that menace. And the only way an FBI agent can protect the country from a menace who is a presidential candidate is to ensure that he doesn't become the president. Miss Page, I can understand the reading of that, sir, but what I am trying to tell you is that I understand that menace is a very loaded word, but this is sort of a singular flash in time. I think the other thing that's important to understand is the meant to stay where you are is because he was considering putting in for another job. And so this is really in the context of a conversation we had for days or weeks about whether to seek a promotion to another job versus to sort of stay where he is. And Ratcliffe, yeah, sure you can, Miss Page. And the truth of the matter is, and I'm quite confident that people who have worked counterintelligence would say this, Peter Strzok is the best counterintelligence agent in the FBI, certainly in a position of management. And so the notion that he would take a different position and leave open a management position, which would necessarily be filled by somebody less qualified, is also reflected in that. Ratcliffe, okay, are you finished? I am. Mr. Ratcliffe, I didn't want to cut you off. I appreciate the context for the part about whether he's meant to stay where you are. I'm more concerned about you're meant to protect the country from that menace that you believe is Donald Trump, especially when it's followed up with the next text that you sent to him on August 8th. Trump's not ever going to become president, right? Right? To which he has responded, no, he's not. We'll stop it. Peter Strzok replies, no, he's not. We'll stop it. He continues, so you're meant to protect the country from the menace of Donald Trump. He's not going to become the president, right? No, we'll stop it. And these texts are being exchanged with the lead investigative agent a week after he has opened the investigation into the Russia collusion matter. Miss Page, I completely understand that. I will say sort of two things in response. The first is, I know this person very well. Of course she does. They're having an affair. And so while I completely understand how, after the fact, and with the little snippets that a text message represent, I understand wholly why you and others would interpret it that way. I sincerely do. But I know this person, and I know myself, and I know the sort of integrity and the investigative quality that we both bring to work. And that is ultimately what that represents. And then certainly with respect to the he's not going to become president, right? I don't know whether you were here when I was discussing it with the minority staff, but I was very deeply affected by the harshness and the cruelty that I felt that Donald Trump exhibited towards the Khans. I felt like it was there, but for the grace of God go we. I'm an immigrant, the same as the Khans are. I very seriously considered joining the military before I decided to enter public service. and I was unbelievably appalled that anyone, let alone a presidential candidate, would insult the family of a slain service member. It's inappropriate, and it's disgusting, and it remained with me for quite some time. And so, yes, I sent the, and again, I don't know whether, as I said earlier, before I fall asleep, I sort of read. It's when I catch up on the news. And so my strong suspicion is that I was on my phone, I read something about it, I was upset and bothered, and so I made the he's not really going to become the president, right? And no, we'll stop it was simply an attempt to comfort me. All right. Is this in the realm of possibilities? Sure, anything's possible. Could this just have been a woman texting her lover at night? She's done with work, she's reading the news, she's watching television, she gets on her phone and she texts him because she gets upset and he's trying to comfort her. Yeah, I guess that's possible, and I guess it's also possible that the tooth fairy's going to leave $20 under your blanket, under your pillow tonight, but let me know how that works out for you. I mean, there's millions of things that Peter Strzok could have said in response. But he said, no, he's not. We'll stop it. He could have said, he's crazy, he'll never win, don't let him bother you, have a good night, yada, yada, yada. That's not what he said. It's not what he said. So is it in the realm of possibilities? Sure. That's just where we're going to have to leave that. But continuing with Mr. Ratcliffe, and we're going to wrap this up here shortly. Okay, well, I can appreciate the emotion and opinion that you have regarding that event. I'm sure a lot of people in the country may have felt that way, but those people were not in a position to influence the outcome of an investigation. There was only one lead investigator in the country on this investigation. And the way this reads, you asked him whether or not, you asked, Donald Trump's not ever going to become president, right? And he responds, no, he's not, we'll stop it. That sounds like a promise for someone who's in a position to keep a promise. And then she goes on, yada, 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 and they go a little bit back and forth. Not much with that stuff. But lastly, as I wrap this up, another thing that we continue on with this testimony, and this has to go a little bit further. Just again, I just want to show some hypocrisy with what exists in this country. Okay, so this is Mr. Ratcliffe. And this, again, is still dealing with the Russia investigation. Let me move on to a text message on September 2nd of 2016. It's a series of texts that you exchanged with Agent Strzok. And at one point, you text him, yes, because POTUS wants to know everything we are doing. Page, oh yeah, I don't see where it is, but I know what it is. Yeah, Ratcliffe, okay. And do you know the context of what it is? Page, this is in the context of, and Ratcliffe cuts her off. Well, first of all, so is POTUS, I'm assuming that's, Page cuts him off. President Obama, okay. Okay, so let's step back here. They are texting, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok. And at one point you text him, yes, because POTUS, President of the United States, wants to know everything we are doing. President Obama wanted to know everything that was taking place with Russia-Trump collusion. I mean, this just makes my head spin because the president can't say boo to the Justice Department. Otherwise, it's obstruction. He can't do anything. He can't ridicule former AG Jeff Sessions. He can't fire Jim Comey. He can't tweet that it's a witch hunt. He can't even utter the words Justice Department or FBI, or the Democrats in the mainstream media are going to be at his throat saying obstruction of justice. Even Jerry Nadler is out there saying, how can he tweet? How can he tweet it's a witch hunt? And how could he fire Jim Comey? Even though Jim Nadler himself, along with every other Democrat at the time, wanted Jim Comey fired. Of course, President Trump actually does it, and it's obstruction of justice. It isn't. It's well within his authority as the President of the United States, but we don't care about the Constitution or the facts. We just want headlines, and we just want this man impeached. That's all it is. So here we have President Obama, who wants to be kept in the know on everything with Trump-Russia collusion, and where's the investigation? Where are the Democrats saying Obama was obstructing justice? He's not supposed to know that. He's not supposed to have anything to do. He's supposed to have his hands up, step back, have nothing to do with the DOJ. That's Loretta Lynch's territory. That's Jim Comey's territory. He delegates the responsibility to those two, quote-unquote, outstanding individuals. He doesn't get involved. Yet here he is, in the midst of this text. If you want to believe Miss Page, well, you got the text. You got the text. And at one point you text him, yes, because POTUS wants to know everything we are doing. Two-tiered justice system. Cannot and will not stand much longer. It just won't. Under its own weight, it will collapse. It will collapse. There's a lot more we have to get into. I'm going to be very respectful of your time, and I'm going to be respectful of my temperature and blood pressure as well, because this is just disgusting. It's just disgusting. I mean, everybody likes to be, well, not everybody, but, people want to be in the know. They like politics. They want to voice their opinion. They want to chart their future as our rights. That's our God-given right. We're supposed to have that ability. But when you have a justice system, and clearly this level of corruption and incompetence at the highest levels of our government, we got a big problem. We got a big problem. So you got to get the word out. Don't take my word for it. You can Google this stuff, read the transcripts, find out what's going on, do your own analysis. But this is just beyond the pale. Beyond the pale. You got a phony dossier, and I'm pretty sure they knew at the time that it was phony. I'm almost certain that they knew it was phony. They know that Hillary Clinton's got the most top secret classified information, the dearest and most, I guess you could call them sacred secrets of the United States of America, on her server. The Inspector General of the intelligence community doesn't have the clearance to see them, and he's the overseer. He provides oversight. How are you supposed to provide oversight if you can't see what the people you're investigating are doing? He didn't have authority to do it. Yet, according to Miss Page, well, I didn't know it was classified. I didn't know. Give me a break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday, so enjoy your weekend. Stay safe, especially if St. Patrick's Day, if you're out there. Do not drink and drive. Get an Uber, get a taxi. Get somebody who's not drunk to drive you home, or just stay home and enjoy your friends and family in the comfort of your home. It's been a pleasure having you. Please like, share, subscribe, get the word out. There will be more chaos coming, don't you worry, but do enjoy your weekend. This is the Capital News. I am Alex Karitis. Godspeed.